I will give myself an introduction into the Aligned project. After that, my co-worker Marissa Groenestegen, big in the screen at the moment, will give a result of a sector overview, which we made as part of the Aligned project. And after that, we will have an interactive discussion on the environmental sustainability of the pulp and paper sector. And the general idea of this workshop is that we like to inform you on the Aligned project, what we want to do. We like to inform you on how we see the environmental sustainability issues as written down in the sector overview. And we like to check and verify if the problems that we are working on are indeed the problems that are prevalent in the sector, and also the opportunities that they are the opportunities in the sector are indeed those opportunities that we think there are. After that, we have a wrap up at around 11:30, and then it's about after 1.5 hours. Then usually that's enough for a webinar to keep the concentration. So that's it. Welcome. Yeah, nice that you're all here, and we can continue with the introduction to the project given by me. I will share my screen once again. This is properly visible. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Good. The Aligned project. My name is Patrick Reumerman. I work for BTG, just as Marissa does. And we are part of the Aligned project. And I will tell you something about the history of why we started the project and the overall goals, and a little bit about the case study. Good. First, BTG, the company where we work. BTG is an SME that works on biomass for energy and materials. And we do that for a very long time, already, I think more than 25 years. We have gone through some transformations because 25 years ago, biomass, bioenergy was still in its infancy, and bio-based was hardly heard of. We have a combination of consultancy and RTD, which we think is very strong. The RTD people know what the market wants via the work that we do as in the consultancy department. And the consultancy department knows about the latest development in biomass conversion technologies. So we know what we are talking about, and we can talk with authority on these subjects. Our work spans from pre-feasibility to implementation. Our expertise spans the entire value chain from biomass to energy and materials. So it is feedstock availability, logistics, pre-treatment, conversion, markets, and products, market combinations, etc. We know a lot about gamma aspects, as we call them, sustainability, value chain evaluations, financial analysis, legal aspects. We do knowledge transfer. Sometimes we do training. So we do the entire gamma on our field of expertise. We have experience with the formation of consortia, and we like very much to cooperate in large European projects where we can then fulfill our job and make our expertise useful. Good. The Aligned project, how did it start actually? It started because we worked on a European tender where we looked at the outlook for biorefineries in Europe. Biorefineries, especially for chemicals and materials. And what we did in that study, which is, by the way, very interesting still, it's a bit large, but very interesting. And we looked at the barriers towards wider implementation of biomass for chemicals and materials. And there we found out that many stakeholders said that lack of evidence on sustainability was seen as a key barrier. What they said, well, it's costly to prove sustainability because you have to do it on a product level, and a full LCA is often needed, which is expensive. If you do it, the LCAs are open to interpretation. There's no level playing field. Fossil competition does not need to have any does not need to have these stringent demands with respect to sustainability. There are many, many labels which are not always effective. You have sector-specific methods, like the Higgs in textiles, Breamt in construction, etc. The terminology is sometimes confusing. So we thought, well, this could be better, that we can improve on this. There was a call on this for the European Union. They saw this as well. And what they said, we wanted to improve the environmental sustainability in a number of industrial bio-based sectors directly and by improving the methodologies. And we said, well, that's interesting. That's what we want to do. We made a consortium, and we said, well, this call to improve the environmental performance, we are going to submit an application to this call. We have, I think, around 10, 12 partners. And we said, well, we are going to try to do this. The industrial bio-based processes, they have a lot of promise. They can reverse climate change, reduce pollution. The zero pollution is one of the targets for the European Union. And yeah, we can play a role there. We submitted the application and we were one of the 2 projects selected for funding. And that's very nice. We're happy that we can do this. Good. What will we then do? To be more specifically, we will try to advance the scientific field of life cycle assessments in these 5 sectors. The construction, woodworking, pulp and paper, textile, and biochemicals, 5 industrial bio-based sectors. And that's not only what we do. That's the first objective, the improve, harmonize, and align. Watch the name, align the LCA methodology for the assessment of bio-based industries. We want to demonstrate the power of the methodology to improve the environmental performance. And we want to inform, involve, empower relevant stakeholders. And that's what we do in this workshop, of course. We want to inform, involve you so that we can get an efficient methodological uptake, and that what we do is very much aligned to what the sector wants and expects. Good. How do we do this? We have here a little bit of a complicated diagram, but if you start from the left, then it is more or less understandable. We take the state of the art on environmental sustainability improvement, or not improvement, but measurement. We harmonize, seek scientific consensus on the methodologies. We develop a methodological framework, a number of tools and models. We have 5 case studies. For each of the bio-based sectors, we have 1 case study. And together with this case study, we have an iterative analysis and improvement of the methodological framework. And of course, during the project, we will have a continuous feedback loop and communication with our stakeholders. What do we hope to get? Aligned and simplified methods to assess the environmental performance. We want to directly improve the environmental performance in the industrial bio-based sectors. We take a number of processes in our 5 case studies. We want to disseminate the data, and we want to give recommendations to improve the environmental performance in these sectors. Here you see it the same presented in even shorter term. So what we want to reach. These are the results which I just mentioned. Improve the environmental performance, align the LCA methods, simplify them, recommendations to sectors. We hope that that strengthens and widens LCA development. We hope that that reduces the costs. We want to give better information to policymakers, avoid mistakes, and of course, in the end, that should increase the growth of circular bio-based systems, and that should also protect the environment, of course. We do that with a very nice partnership. We have actually 3/4 types of organizations. First, we have a number of academic partners. Aalborg University is the coordinator and also the academic partner for the pulp and paper sector. University of Antwerp, the INSA of France, and NTNU are also academic partners. We have, for the 5 case studies, 5 case study companies. Kingspan, Oleon, Foreco, Bloom, and Utexbel. Bloom is our partner for the pulp and paper sector. We have 2 research SMEs. BTG is one of them. Sustainable Innovations is the other one. And we have 1 sector organization. And on the logo, you can see it already. It's for the textile sector, Centexbel. The case study of the aligned project with Bloom and Aalborg, which are doing at the moment. This is not the workshop about the case study, but it's good to inform you about what we do. So that's why I devote 2 slides on this. It is a very nice process of Bloom, which is in development. It focuses on the valorization of lignin. So extraction, depolymerization, and valorization, making products out of it. It's a novel and emerging technology. It's in the lab, TRL4. And yeah, well, it's 250 liters is already quite a big lab installation, by the way. And they try to make lignin monomers, oligomers, and various other projects like bioplastic precursor and cellulose from it. What we'll try to do is we look at the environmental sustainability, do the life cycle assessment on that. We hope that the process will prove that it improves production of the products, so that the processing energy is reduced. Look at the chemicals which are needed to treat the woody feedstock. Reduction of chemicals is a goal, of course, and the influence of switching feedstock resources is checked. End of life scenarios are important because the process generates quite a lot of waste per ton. So that's an issue. And one issue also with the case study at the moment is that the functional unit is a problem. There are more products. So if you select one as the functional unit, then all the others are byproducts, and that has its significance. So currently it's looked at how to deal with it. There are options of maybe selecting more functional units, but that is still under consideration. The work is ongoing. And yeah, of course, we hope that this will lead to a very good assessment. Then about our workshop, what are we doing today? We would like to consult with you at 2 points in our project. This is at the beginning. We have made a very interesting sector overview. At least we hope that it's interesting. We want to check with you whether we hit the right spots. Looking at environmental sustainability in this sector, the methods and the barriers and opportunities. We have already done this through an online consultation, and we're now doing it with the workshop, which is this one. And what we will do in the workshop, we will present also the results of the online consultation. You are able to give your inputs also, and we would like to compare the two. So we hope that this fine tunes and clarifies the points that were raised and are raised in this workshop. Near the end of the project, in about 2 years, you are already kindly invited to the next point, where we will present the results and the recommendations, which we of course would like to refine and fine tune together with you. Thank you. I hope you are now clear about what we would like to achieve with the Aligned project and with this workshop. You can get connected through all kinds of ways. Twitter, LinkedIn. We have a website, old-fashioned. There on the website, you can register as a stakeholder, and then we will keep you regularly informed on the progress of the project. We won't flood you with emails, but we would like to keep the conversation, our communication targeted and to the point. Please sign up, and you can give also your preference to where you are interested in the general Aligned project or just in the pulp and paper sector. Do that, and you will be kept informed. Thank you very much. And yeah, I hope this is all clear. Good. Then I would like to give the word to Marissa. Marissa, please tell us something about the pulp and paper sector. I will stop sharing my screen and I will give you the word and the floor.
Okay, thank you, Patrick. Do you see my screen?
Yes, we see it.
Perfect. Okay, well, welcome everyone.
You're muted, Marissa.
I can't hear Marissa.
Okay. Is it good now?
Yeah.
Okay, well, welcome everyone, and thank you, Patrick, for your presentation. My name is Marissa Groenestegen, and I also work at BTG, and I will be presenting the sector overview that we made for the pulp and paper sector. So why did we write this sector overview? So in the Align project, we are looking at LCA methodology, and this new and aligned LCA methodology will be tested in 5 bio-based sectors, including the pulp and paper sector. So as my colleague explained to you before, for this sector, we are having a case study about lignin valorization. But in order to translate these findings from the case study to recommendations that fit the entire pulp and paper sector, we have to understand the sector. So the first step of gaining this understanding was to write a sector overview. So this document provides a general overview of the sector, including the state and the size of the sector, its inputs and outputs, the environmental impacts and the way that these are assessed. And in order to verify these findings, we wanted to see what the people from the sector find most important. So we first held an online consultation in which we asked people from the pulp and paper sector about environmental problems and assessment methods. The next step is the workshop, which we are having today, in which we want to gain a deeper understanding of what people from the sector find most important, but also why. And we also want to keep you up to date with our findings and receive your feedback. And verify our results. So let's start with the sector overview. So there is not only the production of pulp and paper, but also the manufacturing of paper articles in the EU. So the EU consists of over 1,800 pulp and paper companies in 2020 that employed around 160,000 people. The EU pulp and paper sector had a turnover of 74 billion euros in 2021. And the manufacturing of paperboard and paper articles had a turnover of 104 billion euros in 2021. So the EU consists of over 16,000 manufacturers of paperboard and paper articles, which employ a little under 500,000 people. So together, the production of pulp and paper, as well as paper articles, account for 1.2% of the EU's GDP. So the sector is dominated by large enterprises, as the EU has several large pulp and paper companies, such as Stora Enso, UPM, and SCA. The biggest producers of pulp and paper in the EU are Sweden and Finland, which together produce about half of the EU's total pulp production. Germany is the EU's biggest producer of paper and paperboard, as it produced almost a quarter of the EU's total production. So Europe is the world's second largest producer of pulp and paper, as it manufactures 37 million tons of pulp, which represents about a quarter of the world's production, and 100 million tons of paper articles, which is also a little under a quarter of global production. The pulp and paper sector is the EU's second largest forest-based sector after woodworking. So about 39% of the EU's pulp and paper sector's raw materials are from virgin pulp. The most commonly used feedstocks for virgin pulp is wood fibers, such as softwoods from pine and spruce. And there are also alternative fibers, which originate from cellulase-containing crops and plants, such as cotton, bamboo, flax, bagasse, and other bast fibers. One of the other main feedstocks used in the sector are recycled fibers. Recycled fibers account for about half of the raw materials used for paper products in Europe. And the recycling rate of paper in Europe is quite high, as it reached over 70% of paper in 2021. And together, these make the sector largely bio-based. However, there's also another 11% of the sector's inputs that are non-fibrous. And this includes starches, clays, calcium, and calcium carbonate, which are used as coatings and fillers for the paper. So let's have a look at how these raw materials are being used in the sector. So as I mentioned before, we have different cellulase-containing crops and plants, and of course wood. The pulping process aims at extracting the fibers from these plants, crops, and wood by removing the lignin. So pulp mills have different chemical and mechanical processes in order to extract these fibers. In mechanical pulping, the fibers are mechanically removed, usually by grinding the material. And in chemical pulping, the lignin, which is holding the fibers down together, is broken down and dissolved using certain chemicals. So there's also semi-chemical pulping, which uses both of these, which is used to create the pulp. The pulp can then be cleaned and bleached, and then goes through the paper making machine, where it is mixed with water and chemicals. It's flattened, dried, and cut into sheets and rolls to create paper. And various non-fibrous materials can be added to this paper. And then the paper can be further processed to create paper articles, such as cardboard, toilet paper, and graphic paper, such as newspapers. So the used paper products can then also be recycled by collecting and sorting these used paper products, then repulping and removing large contaminants. And then there is a de-inking process. The de-inked pulp can then be put into the paper making machine to make new paper products. So as you can see on the bottom left corner, there are some byproducts from the chemical or from the pulping process. So the pulping process gives various byproducts such as black liquor, crude sulfate turpentine, tall oil, and lignin. So the main purpose of pulping is the separation of as much lignin as possible, as it reduces the quality of the paper. So currently, about 98% of the lignin produced in the pulp and paper sector is used for combustion, heating, and or power generation, while less than 2% is used for other applications. So lignin can also be extracted and used for various purposes, such as asphalt, vanillin, a binder, or adhesive, a dispersant, a dye, or a bio-oil. And the extraction and the application of lignin will be examined in the case study. So the traditional pulp and paper facilities are shifting towards multi-output biorefineries, where bioenergy, biomaterials, and biochemicals are simultaneously produced. These biorefineries produce bio-based products such as man-made cellulosic fibers, biodiesel, bionaphtha, and lignosulfonates. The share of this emerging bio-based products as a part of the total EU pulp and paper sector's turnover is currently about 3%, but this is expected to be substantially larger in the future. So in our consultation, we asked what share people expected traditional pulping to have of the pulp and paper sector's turnover in 2050. And on average, the respondents answered 50%, meaning that they expect the other half of this turnover to come largely from these biorefineries. So they are expected to see a large growth. So I showed you this figure before, but as there are some other shifts in the sector, including a lower use of virgin raw materials, and as you saw before, more and more recycled paper is used, while the amount of virgin raw materials has slightly decreased over the years. The production of pulp and paper is a very energy-intensive process, and in 2017, the global pulp and paper production used about 4% of the world's energy. And in Europe, the pulp and paper sector is the fourth largest consumer of energy. So in the paper making process, drying is the most energy intensive process. But also while a lot of energy is used, the pulp and paper sector is also the largest industrial consumer of renewable energy in the EU, as 60% of the sector's energy needs were supplied by renewable resources in 2020. And as you can see, this has increased over the years. So the pulp and paper sector is a major consumer of resources. While the sector uses a lot of energy, the majority is produced using renewable resources. As for raw materials, less virgin materials are used due to a higher recycling rate. However, the pulp and paper sector still uses an estimated 42% of global wood harvests. So through unsustainable forest management, unsustainable agricultural practices, and illegal logging, the sector could thereby contribute to deforestation and forest degradation. Sustainable forest management is of high importance to the pulp and paper sector, as the sector relies on the long-term stability of European forests and their overall resilience to climate change, as this affects the quality and the quantity of the wood available to the sector. So water is a key element of the pulp and paper production process. So in Europe, the pulp and paper sector is the second largest consumer of industrial process water. And on average, 10 liters of water are used to produce a single piece of A4 paper. Water is used at various stages of the production process and is also needed to grow the trees, of course. However, it should be noted that many pulp and paper mills reuse their water at various stages in the paper making process, and they are reusing up to 90% of their water. So while the effect of pulp and paper and production on water availability is currently not a major concern in Europe, climate change is already causing droughts and water scarcity in large parts of the continent. This makes the sector's water consumption possibly critical in the future. So as for pollution, Globally, the pulp and paper sector released 190 million tons of CO2 emissions in 2021, which is about 2% of all industrial emissions. The EU pulp and paper sector has relatively low emissions compared with global levels, as this is largely due to its efficient production and the high share of recycled fibers. So this figure shows you the CO2 equivalent that is emitted when producing 1 metric ton of different types of paper. And it shows you that paper and paper products from recycled fibers have significantly lower emissions than its virgin fiber counterparts. So it's also the production of pulp and paper is a very chemically intensive process, and it releases various possibly toxic pollutants that can impact the environment and create health problems. These pollutants mostly originate from pulping and the bleaching of the pulp. So there are also various practices that focus on the sustainability of pulp and paper products and want to minimize these environmental impacts. This includes EU policies and regulations, as well as sustainability standards. So the EU battles deforestation and illegal harvesting through its forest law enforcement, governance, and trade policy, and the EU timber regulation. As a part of the European Green Deal, the EU has released its forestry strategy for 2030, which builds on the biodiversity strategy for 2030, which focuses on sustainable forest management that adapts to climate change. The Green Deal also aims at reducing packaging waste by stimulating reusable packaging options, avoiding unnecessary packaging, overpackaging, and providing clear labels about recycling options. So beside the legal requirements, many buyers also ask for sustainable forest management certifications. The two main sustainable forest management certifications are the FSC, the Forest Stewardship Council, and the Program for the Endorsement of a Forest Certification, also known as PEFC. Both certifications aim at creating and implementing sustainable forest policies to save and protect the forest against destruction. These certifications both rest on the same 3 pillars: the social, economic, and environmental impacts of wood production. And there are also various other standards for paper products, such as the Cradle to Cradle standard and the EU Ecolabel. But another way to promote the use of more sustainable pulp and paper products is by using environmental assessments. So there are various types of environmental assessments, such as environmental impact assessment, environmental product declarations, product environmental footprint, the GHG protocol, the Science-Based Targets Initiative, and life cycle assessment. In order to assess the environmental impacts of materials, products, or services, a life cycle assessment can be used. LCAs can be used in a decision-making process towards sustainability and can be applied to a wide range of sectors, including the pulp and paper sector. But in order to compare the environmental sustainability of products, the LCAs applied need to be aligned, which is why we are looking at this in our project. And which is also why we want to discuss with you the environmental sustainability in the sector and more specifically the use of LCAs.